Jordan Peterson, for myself, like most men, and many men that I myself know, has been a source of inspiration and a guidelight and powerhouse towards manhood for a very long time now. I am personally critical of the work of Jordan Peterson because I do not agree with everything the man says, but I would like you to look at the following video and give your own opinions and takes on what you're seeing, and for us to discuss that together in a way that can help and empower men to lead more fulfilling lives and do what they honestly want to do with them and unite as much as possible, and for us to discover solutions to what we can improve as men and make the world a better place. Let's get into it.
You don't make men safe by making them weak. In fact, they're much more dangerous when they're weak because they'll stab you in the back when they get the chance, or take advantage of you when they get the chance. You make men safe, let's say, by making them strong, and then by making sure that they're disciplined.
Yes. When we as men are disciplined, we are independent. And that doesn't mean independent of the world, as the world is trying to portray that. Be independent, become financially independent. We are interdependent beings. But when us as men are truly independent, then we have freedom, and from that freedom, we can love, we can create communities, we can create joy, families, and we can actually be light for ourselves and inspire that in other men too.
And so, you've got people like you've got this, let's say, warrior mentality that's a deep part of their temperament, and then you have some choices about what you might do with that. You might try to discipline it and bring it under voluntary control and integrate it into your character, in which it can make you someone who's stalwart and indomitable and who will move forward, in the face of tremendous risk. And well, that's the optimal pathway if you have that kind of temperament. I think, like, it's the men that have the most, what would you call it? It's not aggressive exactly, but we'll leave it at that. Aggressive and fearless temperaments that can be the best men.
Exactly. It is exactly like that. And aggression, I'm going to link some really interesting material for you in the future so that you can see what aggression actually means in us men. Aggression is not the ability to dominate someone else or to assert our dominance. It is the expression of will of myself as a man, and it is the ability to resist resistance. So when resistance comes, I'm able to face it and confront it as a man, and that is referred to as aggression. If I'm, for example, with my girlfriend outside and another man comes and he's being violent and aggressive towards her or me, I am aggressive I'm considered aggressive if I stand up for myself and my girlfriend. Because in order for me to meet that aggression, and I have no other means of doing it in the moment, then I will of course naturally be aggressive to establish dominance and hold my ground, not with an intention to confront the man, but simply to signal that this is taken, this land is taken, and I'm sorry, if you want to be here, there are certain conditions you need to fulfill in order to do that.
But it's like having a very powerful dog. You better discipline it, because otherwise it's going to be a monster.
Yeah. Well, I was a rebellious kid, right? And I could have easily gone down the path of crime. And as a matter of fact, many of my friends that I, left when they stayed at home, they did end up as criminals and having big trouble with the law, or going down even paths of drugs and everything else that you can get into. But when we were kids or younger, everyone kind of had the same thing. But like you said, I'm so lucky because I just signed that piece of paper and I saw that I could do something, and I could take all that aggression and all that energy, and I could do something that was good and positive. And we joke about that in the SEAL teams, that many guys, you actually, to be a good SEAL, you sort of have this criminal mindset that you've somehow harnessed and you keep under control most of the time.
Yeah.
And
this is absolutely on point. I cannot even prove to you how accurate this is. I'm going to start from the beginning of what Jocko said about leaving certain friends and friends that kept comfortable and then ended up being criminals and engaging into dangerous behavior such as taking drugs. I'm not going to defend any of the stances on drugs, but I'm personally against it because I used to be someone who, due to a lack of purpose, due to a lack of orientation in life, I could not see my path clearly. So I ended up surrounded with people who were utterly pathless and men who also were not inspiring to me or inspiration to me. And I ended up surrounded by people who I hold myself accountable, of course, when I say this as a man, but it simply did not fulfill my highest potential and purpose, because when I engaged into using substances in a recreational way, then it also made me docile and it made me less active and less pursuing my meaning, value, and importance as a man, as a human being. And when I left those communities and those people, the quality of my life skyrocketed without any implication that these people are in some way at fault. Everyone chooses their life path and everyone chooses their purpose. It simply was the case for me that when I left that community, which was intoxicating for me, I improved my life significantly. Even now, when I look around my life and where I am and where I live and everything that I've built, it was done mostly by myself. And those people are no longer part of my life, nor do they wish to be that, which in itself is proof that all that we were uniting around as people was that fun revolving around substances. And it didn't have weight and it didn't have much meaning, because if it wasn't the same thing for all of us, then it was false. If you're in a community where plenty of drugs or alcohol is being used, then all of you have a distorted view of reality and you're not occupying the same reality as individuals, as people. So how can you then tell that what you're experiencing is real? And the other thing, when he spoke about what they speak about in his SEAL team, when Jocko said about the SEAL teams and what they spoke about, of how they gather and say, well, I could have chosen to be this because I have a criminal mindset. Yes, you do as a man have, the more you are empowered as a man, the more you can see how easy it is to bend the law, bend the will of other people to your advantage. The responsibility of you as a man is in not doing that, and is actually taking responsibility to help someone else improve by, ironically, yourself improving. Because you can never go to someone else and pat them on the shoulder and tell them you need to improve, because people will not listen to that. Rarely will people listen to that, but they will usually, their egos will be wounded and they will not be able to acknowledge the mistakes that they've made in their lives, and thus won't be able to acknowledge what needs to be done. And they want to do it on their own, as I think should be, but I don't want to deal in shoulds and shouldn'ts. However, I do suggest that you follow someone who you actually admire, who is in accordance with your values, and watch your life transform in the most beautiful of ways, like I did to Jordan Peterson, but I still remain critical of both him and Jocko Willink and everyone else that I look, and if I see something that doesn't match with who I am, I listen to that.
Occasionally it does get out of hand, and we got guys that get in trouble, and that happens. And if we only took guys that would never get in trouble, we wouldn't have anyone in the ranks, really.
Yeah.
Because
Well, you also see too in the classic hero stories. I mean, you see this with Harry Potter, for example, which I'm making reference to because it was such a phenomena. I mean, when something makes welfare mother richer than the Queen of England, you shouldn't take note, right? And when kids are reading 500-page books and standing in line waiting for the next one, and when you produce a whole movie empire around something, you should take note of that. Well, Harry Potter's little team aren't the delinquents, right, who have no discipline, but they're also not the good kids. They're the kids who will break rules when necessary. And
Exactly. A good man, a good strong man, is not someone who obeys the rules all the time. You are simply a pawn or an automaton if you're obeying the rules all the time, and if you're living in accordance with everything that someone else has said, an imposed authority which you cannot even feel. You are kept in a loop and you're being told by either the government or someone else on what you should be doing with your life. Women are also not attracted to that. Women are absolutely repelled and repulsed by men who are keeping everything tidy and keeping everything in order, because it doesn't provide them with the interest in adventure. So women know that these kinds of men will not pursue adventure, but will pursue some kind of steady, low-key lifestyle, which actually benefits women at a later stage when they decide to have families, ideally in their mid-20s, but that's disputable now in the West, because statistics on marriage rate and the birth rate and the average age in which women give birth has increased significantly since the 60s. The point is that if you as a man live in accordance with someone else's rules, you will not be very appreciated and respected. You can do that, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but there are consequences to that too.
That's the issue. Break rules when necessary. Now, the question is, when is that necessary? Well, that's sort of the ultimate ethical choice. But, you know, why did that work for you, do you think? You know, like, why was it? Well, two questions. One would be, why did you decide to step into a disciplined structure? I mean, that's obviously very difficult. And why do you think you did that and some of the other kids that you knew that were like you didn't?
It was really one of the most rebellious things that I could do.
And when you rebel, when you're a rebellious man, other men are not going to like you per default. And if they do, they will look up to you, but due to our male pride, we will not show that, because we do not want to see other men being better than us. If we are at that level of consciousness, we can transcend that level of consciousness and wish other men to succeed and to be well. But that is really rare, and it does happen, but it's not quite often. At the same time, when you're a rebel, you're going to be so interesting to people. I'm not saying that's why you should do it. I'm saying that if you're a rebel, people see you, but they know that in your presence, their routine 9-to-5 lives might be disrupted by you. And that is why you might be perceived as a threat, even though you are not. And they know that. But know that most people live very, very quiet, withdrawn lives. They nurture their 9-to-5 lifestyle, and that's not good or bad. That's what they chose. But for you as a rebel who is pursuing his career, building his own business, building his own body, you will not be a desirable presence for those people if they wish to maintain that lifestyle. And when you're a rebel, you're automatically more attractive to women as well. And that is a nature, that is also women's nature. And women are naturally attracted to men who do exert rebellious traits, who are standing up to injustices, even acknowledging their mistake. If I as a man stand up for something and I was wrong, that is also the most beautiful thing also a woman can experience, that she can see that there is a man who can acknowledge he was wrong and just brush it off and continue with his life and make things right.
Was to join the military. So I come from a small New England town. People get done with high school, they go to college, they get a job as whatever people get jobs as. They follow that very normal path. And I didn't even know anyone that joined the military. And so that was the most rebellious thing I could do. Oh, college? No. Education? No. I'm going to go be a commando. That's what I'm going to do. And it was the most rebellious thing I could do. I think that's one of the reasons why I did it. It was also a complete breakaway from, family. Oh, okay, I will have no reliance on you. I'm going. You don't have to worry about me anymore. I'm done. I will not rely on anyone else. I will be self-reliant, which I wanted to do. And so I think those are the main things that got me there. And then what's great about it for me was when I got there, you have a completely blank slate and you have very clear directions of what you need to do to ascend the dominance
Right,
hierarchy.
right,
You
right.
do this, you follow these rules, you literally fold your underwear in this way when you're going through boot camp and you get a better grade on your military performance. So they give you very clear rules that you're supposed to follow and very clear tasks that you had to do. And it was great for me because it was a blank slate, because when I was in high school, I was a screw up. Not bad, but not good. And so I hadn't really set myself up properly. And now all of a sudden, all I had to do, that was all gone. It didn't matter. That the past did not matter at all. I had a completely blank slate. If you do this stuff properly, you'll do well.
And it is true that if you follow a certain set of rules, you will get a certain kind of outcome. But don't forget at the same time that any form of conditioning is still conditioning. If you are truly free as a man, as human, you are not prone to any form of conditioning. You know what needs to be done in the moment, and your body simply responds accordingly. There is no hesitation, there is no confusion as to what needs to be done. I do not disagree completely to what Jocko said here, but I also do not believe, because I don't see it to be the truth, that by you following a certain set of rules, you will get certain kind of outcome, but then you're only focused on the outcome. Your existence is about much more than that. It is about much more than you pursuing certain goals and outcomes with a certain desired lifestyle. You will have that. Do not worry. I'm doing that right now. I'm speaking to the camera. I know everything I want will happen. That is fine. But who do I want to be in that moment? Is it only that I'm pursuing? Is it only the material? Is it only the status? What am I going to do with that? That is the aspect I like focusing on as well. You will, as Jocko said, you will ascend. You will transcend. All of us will. We do that inevitably. It is the nature of human consciousness. But it's also dependent on the conditions that we have. Are we orderly? Are we kind? Are we loving? Are we respectful? Are we growing? Are we curious? Are we educated? Are we improving our content, what we're creating? And so on.
And you'll ascend that.
Yeah, well, that's
hierarchy.
That's a very interesting thing, because then it's not merely a matter of following a set of arbitrary rules. It's following a set of rules that have a clear path to success. Right? That's a very different thing.
And also, have in mind that you define what success is, no one else. You can look at other people and you can say, well, this is success and this person is successful. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Success is something that many of us are so hung up on, and we hold on to that so strongly because we want to be successful thinking we're not already. And we might not be according to some metrics, but if I were, for example, to look at myself at 15, or the 15-year-old me to look at me, he would be amazed to see how far I've come. I think there is this beauty in doing that kind of practice, that you shouldn't care about what someone else has to say, but the younger version of you. So simply look at, would the younger self, the younger you, be satisfied with where you are right now? And maybe the 2-3 most important people in your life. Are they happy with where you are, who you are right now? And why is that? And that is some of the most beautiful feelings in the world you can feel. Trust me.
And that's also something that's honest, because the rules of the game are well established, and then if you play it properly, you get to win. And that's a big deal as well. You know, and you mentioned the SEAL types, and I've met a number of people like that. You know, they're capable of breaking rules, let's say, or maybe even inclined to break them. But I also think that this is part of the reason that I'm an admirer of Carl Jung, because Jung makes it very clear that, see, he was very interested in the barriers to enlightenment. Because if there's such a thing as being enlightened, let's say, then why isn't everyone enlightened? If it's just a matter of taking the glorious route and following your bliss, let's say, it's like, well, that sounds pretty easy. Why isn't everyone enlightened? But Jung's thinking isn't like that at all. You know, he believed that in order to transform your personality, that first of all, you had to be disciplined, that's for sure.
What Jung says, and if you read Jung, you will discover some wonderful things, but I say don't be limited just to Jung. Jung is just one of a limitless, endless number of psychologists, and we are still multiplying, we're still theoreticizing, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But there is so much information out there that you can discover on your own. All already exists. Everything already exists. You simply need to discover it, whether that's within yourself and in interaction with the world, in your relationships with your loved ones, yourself. You simply need to understand that there is a way for you to get everything you want, and you decide what discipline is and what works best in accordance with your nature. You are not a prisoner to your discipline. You're actually, the purpose of discipline is to discipline yourself. You're a disciple. That's the root of the word. You are a disciple, and you are there to learn. You are here in this life, on this planet, to learn. And if you are genuinely curious in how, for example, to be successful, ask yourself what that is, and ask yourself how it looks like, and sit and do the work and enjoy it. It's better to work for yourself than to work for someone else. Try it and see.
But you also had to integrate that part of you that was terrible and capable of breaking rules and make it part of you. And so then, and I really like that idea. Well, here's an example. So about 20 years ago, I would say, there was a newspaper headline in one of Canada's major newspapers, and it was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, Lloyd Axworthy, and he was talking about what had happened with Milosevic in the former Soviet Union, in Yugoslavia, and the atrocities that were being committed. And he said that he was caught unawares by that because he didn't have the imagination for that kind of evil. And I thought, well, you think that what you're doing is signaling your virtue by making a statement like that. But from my perspective, all you're doing is stating your cowardice and your historical ignorance, because if you're going to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, you bloody well better have imagination for that kind of evil. Because if you don't, then anyone who does wins. They beat you. And so again, in the Harry Potter stories, you see, he's touched by evil, right? He actually has a soul fragment that's embedded within him that's as black as anything can possibly be. That's why he can talk to snakes. But without that, he wouldn't be able to have any victory. And that's exactly right psychologically. Unless you can think the way that an evil person thinks, then you're defenseless against them.
Absolutely true. Fundamentally, fully articulated and true. In order for you to understand your opponent, your obstacle, you need to integrate the part of you that does contain the qualities of you becoming that. I, as a man, have what Peterson called the criminal mindset. I know exactly how I can trick the system, how I can manipulate the system to my personal gain and advantage. The ability for me to conceptualize and think that allows me to not be tricked by the system, to not be manipulated by the system or an individual, someone who wants to take advantage of me. That is what grounds you in your masculinity, in your identity, and in your being. You do not let that go, because that is a very important part of you. It is one of the actually most important parts of you, because that is a part of you that respects you the most and wishes you the best. It's like a parent that's not always nice to you, but they are strict. It's like a strict father that loves you, cares for you, but will tell you how things are and how things are supposed to be done. Not always in a kind way as a mother does.
Because they'll go places you can't imagine, and then they win. And so the best men I've met, it was interesting even when I was in junior high and high school, because most of my friends dropped out, by the time they were grade 10, thereabouts. And a lot of them were guys who developed physically. They're pretty powerful, and they were just damn sick of putting up their hand to go to the bathroom. It was like, they're not doing that anymore. One of my friends got kicked out when he sort of challenged the gym teacher, physically. And the gym teacher, he could do an iron cross. He was a tough guy, and so it was no trivial matter for my friend to stand up to him, but he got expelled anyways. But, I noticed that it was often the kids whose character I admired that either quit or got expelled, and they were the tougher guys who were just sick and tired of following rules that didn't take into account their character, and then they'd go off and work in the oil rigs or whatever, and you could do that in Alberta at that time. That was really hard work, so it wasn't like they were necessarily taking the easy path. But like, a harmless man is not a good man.
Yes, the main point of this video. A harmless man is not a good man. As a man, you need to be dangerous, and you are inherently dangerous, which doesn't mean you need to harm someone or hurt someone. It means have the potential to do that so that people can take you seriously, not to take advantage of you, to respect your presence, to respect your value and worth inherently, not because you're some sort of authority. You are valued and respected based on your presence and your value and contribution to the society, the community, the world. And that in itself has value that everyone sees and respects. Because you know that value, you know how to defend it. You are strong, you are competent, you are educated, you are articulate. As such, you are a threat to many people's limited beliefs, thoughts, ideals, ideological beliefs, and everything that holds them in place. Because you are moving. And as long as you are moving, you are a threat to people who remain in one place, because you to them are dangerous, because you signal to them that they are stuck and you are moving.
A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And you also see that, like one of the central female stories, let's say, if the hero archetype is the central male story, there are variants of hero archetypes that are relevant to women, and one of them is Beauty and the Beast. And Beauty isn't interested in the guy who isn't the beast. She's interested in the guy who's the beast. And that's exactly right, but she's interested in the guy who's the beast that can be civilized and disciplined, right? And who can use that in the service, well, let's say, of a family. And that's exactly, well, that's exactly how it should be.
Yes. You will notice this in the way and in the type that women are naturally attracted to. Women are attracted to men that are challenging, fearless, strong, powerful, strong-willed, not stubborn, strong-willed, cooperative also, leaders. Because if they want families with these men, if they want children with these men, they need men that can protect those children and them. And that is not a selfish request. Good, strong women, intelligent women, know how to reciprocate that and know exactly how to ask of men to protect and provide for them as they provide their share in the relationship and family naturally. It is a natural order of things that we got so confused nowadays. Let me know what you think about this video. I'm going to make more, so thank you for your attention. I love discussing these subjects that help men grow and orient them towards a better future, towards a better self. And I will be doing more series like these. But for now, thank you for your attention. Please like and subscribe if you like, because it will support this channel and it will reach its right audience. And I'll see you very soon. Bye.